Good morning.
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 Good morning, teacher.
Good morning. Let's rise and grind.
Oh my gosh. You guys are hilarious.
Good morning.
Morning.
Wow, Renee, look at
Hi,
that
Laura.
background. Hi, Rob.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm here.
Wow, you have a bunch of people on here early already. So,
Ready.
Rob, well, that's actually, I mean, you're going to get around 20. We've been typically getting about 20 or so people, but there's already 8 people on. That's awesome. So I usually click on the, down at the bottom where it says manage participants. If you click on it, they show up on the right. I don't know if you already do that or not.
Yes.
And then I like to click on the chat because then that shows up on the right as well.
Yes. Thank you.
However, once you get into slideshow view, you're going to need to ask somebody to check the chat for you because you won't be able to see it.
It's weird because like sometimes I can and sometimes I can't. So I was just practicing, but yeah, I'll ask someone to do that. I was just practicing on my video camera and maybe it's the way I open it up. So when I open up my PowerPoint and I look on the left, I can click on it and it'll pull them up. So we'll see, but I'll help.
Okay, maybe I just don't know how to do it right then.
We're all learning. I was on. I was just thinking the video call, the Zoom call last week. We had all these great instructors, and they forgot to record the whole call. And then what was it? Tuesday or yesterday? They got locked up in rooms, and they couldn't figure out how to get them out, so they were flailing for like 15 minutes. So we're all.
Oh no.
We're all trying to figure it out.
I know I had a great team meeting yesterday and I keep forgetting to do things on Facebook Live. That's what I keep forgetting.
All the time I forget because I'm so excited about just getting everything working.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you find, Laura, that most of the people have the student guide and the toolkit, or is that something that I probably should talk about at the beginning also again?
I would bring it up again for sure, and maybe remind them how to get to it or whatever.
Okay.
I think it's a good reminder. If you want me to put some instructions really quick in the chat on how to get to it, I can do that.
Oh, I will not hold you back from that.
All right. And then otherwise, Rob, I will be here in the background. Once it gets to 9 o'clock, I'll mute myself and I'll stop my video, but if you need anything, just holler and I'll have you turned down, but I'll have you in the background.
Okay. Sounds perfect.
And you can ask, a lot of these guys have been joining every morning and there's been great conversations. You can ask Renee. Huh, Renee?
Yes, ma'am.
There's been super good conversations. So I think you're going to have a good class.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
And Laura, I want to thank you for recording this. This is going to be a great tool for people that haven't really launched to be able to get on and review this. So thank you.
Sure. And we sent Renee Nuri has been sending the recordings to each office. So you guys should have them.
We got ours yesterday and we're pushing it out. So
okay. Okay. So Rob, if you don't mind, once we get right to 9 o'clock, and of course there'll always be a few people that will jump on 5 or so minutes late, but if you don't mind introducing yourself and sharing a little bit about who you are at first, and then jumping into the content. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
And Rob, I'm there. I'm monitoring the chat box in case you want me to.
Oh, that would be great.
So
Okay,
nice.
yeah. Oh, there's the little raised hand. Okay. They're adding more little features in here. It's kind of cool. What is this? I'm going to push a button. Hopefully it doesn't mess anything up. Oh.
Do you want to practice sharing your screen, or you think you got it?
I got it, but I found new little buttons here like this. There's this little yes button and a no button. Go slower, go faster.
Yeah.
I need coffee.
I'll get it right to you.
Need a break. That's great. I don't know what, I guess that's a polling thing. I don't even know what those are for.
These are new because it used to be like for me down here, reactions, but these are even different ones. I think they're for polling. Because
Yeah.
they keep doing more of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I will put some
Cool.
directions in for KW Connect, but I'm gonna let you get started, okay?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody that we have so far. I'm Rob Ross. Some of you, well, I think most of you know me. Been in the business for 15 years, a licensed broker for about 12 years, been with KW for 4 years, and been the TL almost 3.5 years in Campbell. And this is my first time I've taught this class. Super excited. And it's a trip when you look back on your history. I've sold over 100 homes. And I go, wow, it's just, because you just don't look at it. You look year to year, you don't look at things like that. So that's been pretty cool. So what I first want to do is make sure everybody, if you can, if you're decent, I learned this, go ahead and put your video on, because I see a bunch of blank little windows. And I say decent. From what I've heard in the past, it's good to say that first. Make sure your chat window's open. So in case you have any questions, because I know some people don't want to raise their hands, but they're very willing to do the chat. I'll be watching it, and then AJ will be watching it also in case we missed anything or I missed anything, so I can make sure I get all your questions answered. What else we have here? The toolkit. Do you guys all have the toolkit? Let's put it this way. Does it not have the toolkit? And you're welcome to either put a hand up, put something in the chat box, and if no one responds, I will show you very quickly how to do that.
And I'm putting some directions in the chat right now.
Okay, great. So what I will do in the meantime is I will do this real quick. My notes over here.
Yeah, it looks like there's some people that haven't connected to the toolkit. So
Okay.
that's going to be great that you do that.
Let's see here, make sure I get the right one here.
Laura.
Okay.
And you're actually getting some rebellion where people are in their jammies, so they don't want to put their.
What? I got dressed and people are in jammies? What the heck?
Yeah, but how dressed are you? Is it just the anyway?
Fine line, Renee, fine line.
I'm sorry, I've known Rob for a while.
Actually, we've known each other since I think like 2006, so it's been a little bit of time.
It has, yeah.
That's our renegade Nairi who's in jammies, you know.
Of course it would be me.
And then Jordan did Nordstrom, so.
Closest I can get. Renee's in Portugal.
All right, so you'll go to My KW. If you do a Google search, My KW, click on it. You'll get to your dashboard. Go to education. And then inside of education, on the right-hand side, you'll see Ignite Lab 2.0. You'll click on that. And then while you're in there, I think go participant resources. And then in the top left, you'll see this thing says Ignite Toolkit. Go ahead and click on that. I see some chats. Do we have anybody asking, AJ?
And I just put exactly what you're doing, Rob, in the chat as well.
Perfect. Okay. So then go ahead and click on that. And then for some of you, which I know I used to be that way too, if you don't have the guide, come on down here. We're Find the Sellers. Go ahead and click that. It'd be nice if you had that also. Make sure you have all the tools. Cool. All right. So let's change. New share. PowerPoint. And give me a second here. We will do play. I see some of my people. Go over here. My chat up. Good, I'm glad someone's monitoring. I click chat. It doesn't appear to want to come up on my screen. So
Yeah.
I'll do it one more time to see. Oh, there it goes. Okay, it just popped up. My internet connection. Okay. So Chrissy, I see you said toolkit. Did you get that?
Yeah, I got your follow. I'll have to do it after I'm off of here to find KW. I think I have
Okay.
access now. I just haven't been in it yet.
Okay, perfect. And then Sam, hopefully you figured out or saw my way of getting there. And if not, Laura put it in our toolbox for us or in the chat box of how to get to that. So thanks, Laura. And I would ask all your guys' business, but I think I know just about all of you. That's super cool. So why don't we just start one? All right. Let's talk about sellers. Get this thing moving here because I want to make sure I get everything addressed. All right. So as we know, let me put you guys over here. Successful real estate agents, are doing two things, right? They're growing their business and they're running the business. And I think it's important that we differentiate both of them. Growing the business, pretty straightforward, lead generation for buyers and sellers, doing listing appointments, doing buyer appointments, buyer consultations, previewing real estate so that you understand the market, and then running your business, right? Marketing your sellers listings, showing buyer houses, negotiating contracts, transaction management to closing, which hopefully you have a good transaction coordinator, which I think most of you do. If you don't use one, I highly recommend it. And it's not just because I'm the team leader. I just find that having that second pair of eyes during your transaction just makes a whole new world for you. And also it's your first hire as an assistant, pretty much. I see it as vendor management, in our transactions, our home inspectors, appraisers, all of that. Setting goals. Actually, I think that should have been number one. I think every year around October, November, December, you should be setting your goals. That way, when you come into the new year, you're ready to go. And hopefully in December, sorry about that. I think that's a $25 fee to KW Cares, I believe. So I'll make sure that gets there. I'll give it to Laura. But setting goals, compliance, risk management, just making sure that you're compliant with all the documents, especially now. I think it's important to be in touch with your team leader, your broker, knowing what you need for paperwork, because it keeps changing, it seems like weekly. Attend training and get coaching. I think those are both, and you guys are here, so you already understand that because you're getting training. If you're a newer agent, getting coaching, or if you're an agent like I was before I came to take KW and you're stuck, get coaching, get someone to help you out. And number 9, actually that should be probably number 1, learning to manage your money. That's a pretty big one. So definitely take classes on that. Is there anything in here that anybody thinks that we may have missed? It's silent. So I'm assuming that we got everything. And the reason why I say we differentiate is that I find even myself, when I was a very active realtor, that I got stuck a lot of times in running my business and did not do enough sometimes of growing my business. And that caused that wavery line of business coming in and out. And I think that it's really important that we time block, or whatever that looks like for you, to make sure that that growing that business is, especially now more than ever, and you read the shift, you hear it, is it should be a daily activity. For team leaders, it should be a daily activity for us too, in recruiting and also re-recruiting our agents in our offices, not just an every other day situation. Let's see here.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah, go ahead.
On a little bit of a noise in the background, so could you request all the participants to mute when they are not talking? Yes.
I appreciate that. That's one thing I forgot. Yeah, if you guys could all mute if you're not talking. And I believe a trick we learned the other day, AJ, do you remember this? I think if you hold down the space bar, it unmutes you, and then when you let go, it mutes you again.
I think, yeah, that's the radio feature, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Perfect. And thanks, AJ. Yeah, if you catch any stuff like that, if you could let me know. And as I said, for some reason, my chat's not showing up. Could be the slowness of my computer. Perfect. So, we'll start to talk about lead generation. And when talking about lead generation, it's important that we get those leads into our database, right? Even before lead generation as a newer agent, we should be looking at our sphere of influence, our vendors, just as many people as we can. Everybody that or have met should be in your database. And the reason why I make that distinction or talk about that is, I know a lot of people at my son's school, and the first 3 years he went there, none of them were in my database. What a mistake that was. I was teaching flag football. None of them were in my database because I was just like focused on that. But I forgot my job as a realtor is to help out people buy and sell homes. So, and I'm a good realtor, I think. Some people on this trend, or some people have done deals with me and they can have their own opinion. I think they all like me. But anyways, they should all be in my database. I should have their phone numbers, their address, their social media. They should be on my Facebook. So whenever you get in a sticking point of when you're cultivating your database or adding to it, just think outside the box. I'm sure there's somebody that that you met that's not in your database in your social media. I can almost promise you that. And that's a hindrance to your business in the sense that it's an opportunity that's missed. And I wish I had the chat. So question for you guys is, what sort of lead generation are you doing right now? None?
Calling my database.
Calling database. And Jordan, when you say that, what kind of call is that? And who are you talking to in your database?
Everyone in my database, whether I met them at an open house and they were thinking about it before all of this, or whether we just closed, or whether we were just starting, whatever it is. But the way I'm doing it, it's more of a care call than let's buy a house. And naturally, what I've seen probably 9 times out of 10 is it flows to what's real estate doing.
Right.
Jordan, I have a question for you. When you do the care call, sometimes I find it a little bit awkward if I haven't, as you said, these are leads. Sometimes you haven't called them for a long time. So what is your kind of opening statement in the sense, if you have not talked to them for a while or haven't, because that happens to a lot of our database contacts, right? So
yeah, it's so the thing for me is that pain, that awkwardness is my motivation to not let it go that long again in the first couple of seconds of it. But I usually open it up like, hey, so good to hear your voice. How are you doing? I'm so sorry I haven't been better at following up with you. And I just get it out of the way right away.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
I agree with AJ. I had the same issue because being a team leader, I've been focused on my job, which is running the office. But I realized that I have a database of people, and some of the people I haven't reached out to in 3 years. And that was some of the conversations we had. Hey, so sorry, it's been a long time since we've touched base. And I got some responses. Yes, it has been a long time, and a smile and a chuckle. And I'm sure, Jordan, you had the same thing. No one was like, why haven't you called me, or where have you been? None of that. It's always just been, thank you so much for calling, and then just a great conversation. So I think, AJ, it's one of those things too, we overthink. And if we just do it, and we all have the same little thing there, it's that hindrance. So, but good question. We'll dig a little bit more into that later on. So the overview is understand the motivation, right? Once we get these leads, qualifying and then converting them, and / cultivating, as we talked about in our shift class the other day, pre-qualifying the sellers so that we know how to classify them based on their need, and then the listing presentation, and then at the end we'll just go through, as we do with most KW stuff, is just our ahas, recaps, go through some of the nuggets that we talked about. And I'm not going to go into the compliance thing. You guys can read about this. I think it's important that you understand it. But I know in my office, I only have 2 people that actively do, actually 3 people that do these kind of calls. The majority of people do their lead generation another way. So if you're doing a lot of calls, please read through this and understand how this compliance works. You don't want to be that person that gets the mean person on the other side of the phone. All right, finding seller leads. oh, wow, your database. Obviously, the first thing we talked about, that's where, I tell all my newer agents, that's probably where your first deal is going to come from. I would say, especially in a market like this, where open houses aren't readily available, not yet. I mean, we can go into that, there are to a certain degree. So your database is your thing. It's cultivating, just like Jordan said, it's the care calls. And I think what you'll find is, build your database, have the care calls, come from contribution, and then as this baby turns, they're going to appreciate that you reached out to them and answered questions or were there for them in a time of need. And in that, it makes them feel more like there's a connection there versus just someone in your database that you maybe sold a house to or a vendor. The next thing is your daily 10-4. Can I admit, I didn't know what this was until I taught this class. So for some of you who don't know, 10 contacts out of a day, 10 conversations, 10 handwritten notes, and 10 home previews per week. 10 home previews, maybe going online, going through MLS just to get an understanding of what the home looks like. And now with all our technology, you can see the maps. Handwritten notes, I think until I hear differently, handwritten notes are amazing. They are very effective. People don't get them. And especially if you handwrite them yourself and they're personalized, they will go a long ways. 10 conversations a day about real estate. I know some of my agents are doing it via social media. And then I ask them, is there an interaction? Is there really a conversation? And they're like, yeah, we're going back and forth. So it is a conversation. And then adding 10 contacts a day. And as I said before, we talked about it before, where if you can't think of anybody to add to your database, go out on social media, find people. Another thing I was thinking about is belong to networking groups. What kind of hobbies do you got? Like, what kind of networking communities are of interest to you? It's a great place, especially now with meetups and other online, there's an opportunity there. I know a realtor in Silicon Valley that does about 40 million a year. And one of his first foundational pieces he did was LinkedIn. And he reached out to a lot of people that he had jobs with before, college people that he graduated with, and he leveraged that to get his business going. So we just got to think out of the box, especially in a time like this, to add to our database. I think from what I'm hearing from some of our agents in Silicon Valley, let me know if I lose you. My thing says internet connection unstable. Is the listing agents are having their sellers do the open houses. Done any virtual open houses that's on the phone? No. If you're thinking about doing a virtual open house, feel free to tag me or Laura. I do have a great PDF. It's 3 pages long of how to do them. It was from the Papasan team. They one of the writers of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. He put together this 3-page document of how to do them and how to leverage social media. So if you like that, just let me know. I'll get that to you. Referrals, right? Referring agents. When this hit me this morning, one of the things that I think a lot of us don't utilize enough, and I know I don't either, is connecting to other agents through our referral database in Keller Williams, right in your KW command. Continue to reach out to people. The other thing that I remembered the other day this morning was the migration patterns. So if you don't know how that works in the referral network, reach out to your team leader or a coach or a broker in your office, ask them how that works. You're like, so what does that mean? Well, why don't you, and I was telling some people on my team when this first came out, find out where people are coming from. Well, obviously this is past data because no one's flying right now, but there's enough data out there where people are coming from to come to San Jose in the different states, because there are different patterns that we're seeing. And then what I would do is then go onto the referral network and then reach out to all those people that are in that particular area. And hey, some of you might be upset, offer a 35-40% referral fee. blow all your competition out of the water. Just an idea. I mean, if I'm closing a deal in, and it's, 800,000, 900,000, $1 million, and I have to split 40%, but it was a referral that I just came from somebody I didn't even know, and it just came from out of the air, I'm gonna pay them 40%. And I blow away any competition. And then also make sure that you understand your value proposition, so that way they know that you're not just a discount person, but you actually have value, and you just appreciate the referrals. Any questions on that? Anybody need coffee?
Ah, yes.
Yes?
Coffee.
All right, we're all on the same page. All right, so we talked about that. The other thing is, when I was watching the teacher that taught this before was, and we forget about, because it's so at home, is the Facebook Lead Accelerator, right? The Facebook Lead Accelerator and KW Command. If you haven't used it, if you don't know what it is, reach out to your team leader. I had someone the other day, even in my office, go, well, I don't have any listings. Well, number one, you don't need a listing. We have a tape of a class that Jason made in our class where he used a listing on some of his. Or reach out to someone in your office that you know is a heavy listing person. Ask them if it's okay if you use their listing in the Lead Accelerator. It's not saying you're the listing agent, so they may not have an issue with it. I have a top agent in my office that's like totally fine with letting my agents use his listings for the Facebook Lead Accelerator. If you're in my office and you don't know who that is, just ask me and I'll put you guys together. So just thinking outside the box. And then, as I said before, with seller leads, networking groups, previous jobs, make sure that they're in your database, hobbies, school, all that kind of stuff. They're even saying calling expireds and withdrawn. I don't know if I would do that right now. If you want to do it, go ahead, but I might pass that up until things are a little better. Any other lead generation things that people do that we don't have up here? Nope. Gosh, our business is so easy. All right. Qualifying and converting seller leads. To a part here. Just want to make sure I'm on the right thing. Yes. Okay, cool. So we talked about this, the little shift is, yeah, so you've got the lead on the phone. They're willing to have a conversation with you, but you've got to create some sort of connection. It's tricky in a time like this. I think that Zoom is giving us that opportunity to create a connection, whereas just having a phone conversation is pretty tricky, right? I was interviewing an agent the other day, and if I had to just call her and talk to her versus having a Zoom call versus having to do or being able to do a presentation, it's a whole game changer. So you have a lot more tools to you than I think that we really knew that we had. Connecting questions, right? So, and when reading the shift, because that's what we're reading right now, usually when Gary puts up questions, there's usually an intention behind them, right? So, question one, if you would, please tell me a little about yourself, right? So you're just getting details of who they are. You're starting to build rapport. What are you looking for? Are you downsizing? Are you upsizing? Ooh, that would be great, right? What do you want to do? What are your plans? Really understanding where they want to go. Where would you like to buy? So location. What's your motivation? You're starting to qualify them now. Why are you moving? I don't want to live in California anymore. It's too expensive. We hear that. Get a feeling of their timeline. When would you like to do this? Right? Super important too when you're qualifying them is what their motivation and when they want to do it. And then how do you plan to do this? Right? Understanding that.
So, Rob, this is absolutely similar to converting leads, right, from Shift, which is exactly what this is, I guess. Is you're converting a lead from converting it from lead to
You're,
lead to an appointment or something like that.
you're right before the appointment. So right now you're just connecting with them, right? So there you validated you're able to have that conversation. I know, I mean, that's the way this is set up in this Ignite program, but I know for myself, I was a pretty quick converter, so I wanted to get the appointment as soon as possible. So it's when I was a hard close when I would just get phone calls. So on the very initial call, I get some basic information, and then I would go for the close right away. I want them in the office to sit down with them to actually validate these. Things are a little different now, so maybe I'd want to do a Zoom call with them on these, right? Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Did I hear somebody else? Sorry. No. But to answer your question, yeah, it's you're qualifying them. You're trying to get an idea of, and in the same time connecting, right? As we talked about yesterday, in our mastermind, was the deeper you dig into understanding who they are, you start to create that connection. And the more connection you make, the higher opportunity they're going to want to actually meet for you for appointment, right? If there's no connection, it just makes it really tough because they don't know who you are. So yeah, so they said, so if you want to do business with people, so here's a little comment on my sheet. So people want to do business with people that they see as motivated, capable, and likable. Focus on connecting with the seller so that you can build rapport and also find out how willing and ready the seller is. What are the events motivating them to think about selling? What needs or wants are they looking for to fill with this move? Fully understand the seller's motivation and how strong that motivation is helps you move forward to the ultimate goal, which is the transaction. So it asked the question, but I think you guys can fill it, that says, how do these questions help you build rapport and trust? I think as you get better at these questions and you continue to ask, you just tend to build that. Another thing is there a question that's not here that you guys would use to connect with somebody else?
For me, I would want to get the significance of the why. So where would you like to buy? If I was trying to figure that out, what is significant about that? Why do you want to be in that location? Because when you're going deeper and deeper and deeper, you're bound to uncover something.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a child, whether they're taking care of their parent, whatever it is.
So I guess, Jordan, that goes for all these questions, right? Getting deeper, you'll uncover a lot of things. I find that when you go deeper into any of these questions, you uncover so many things that gives you so much somewhere you will connect with them at some point.
I think that if you look at the first question, get details to add to your database, I think that that's kind of a mislabeled, because those are basically Ford questions, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And that's what you need to do at the very beginning to build the relationship, then to go further into asking them about real estate. But you've got to have the rapport and the relationship first before you can really start digging into their needs and wants. At least that's my opinion.
I agree, Renee. That's a good point. Anyone else on that?
I think also if you dig deeper, I think maybe a lot of people sometimes think like, oh yeah, I totally want to move into this area just because generically they're like, oh, I heard that's a cool area. And then maybe through digging deeper, they'll actually even sometimes discover that that actually might not be the area that they may want to move into.
Mm-hmm.
Is that also like something that could be a possibility as well?
You are so you are so on it. I know Santa Cruz better than San Jose, and like I know Renee knows Watsonville really well. And if they go, I want to move to Watsonville, I'm sure Renee would really dig into really what they're looking for in Watsonville, because as we know, there's a bunch of different areas. Some that may look really nice but are not nice. You look at the east side of Santa Cruz. There's a needle exchange place down there that no one ever talks about. It's close to a bunch of homes for sale. You know, so it is really, it's digging deeper into really what they're looking for. Sorry, I heard some noise, but I agree, digging deeper, as you said, Nairi, that's where you become, where the local expert helps out. You know, I remember when I was at David Ling, what, 10 years, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was, and I was doing a floor call, which I know some of you don't even know what the heck that is because we don't have those anymore, I don't think. And this person calls me from New York and says, I'm looking for an ocean view condo. I've got about $250,000 to spend. I had nothing. I could give them a mobile home. So it took a while. I dug into them, and it just wasn't. They were looking for a second home, and that's all they could spend, and it just wasn't the right opportunity for them. But yeah, digging deeper will help you understand. And I like that. What is the significant? Thanks for that.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for like any question is when, especially can everybody mute unless you're talking?
I think there is one person who's not muted, I guess.
Can you see who
Hey,
it is?
Rob, I'll mute everybody right now and then I'll unmute you really quick. Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on. Okay, are you back?
Yep.
Okay, great.
And everybody's mute. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks, Laura.
You're welcome.
I think the other way to look at this too, when you talk about alternatives, like if someone says they want a 4-bedroom, ask them what they, why a 4-bedroom? And if it's, we need 3 bedrooms and an office, at that point you say, well, would an office work as opposed to another bedroom? Or, you start finding out alternatives to what it is they're looking for.
I like
or
that.
Expanding.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because like what you just said in that one, they said 4 bedrooms and they're like, and you're like, okay, what's the 4, what does that look like for you? And they're like, well, the 4th bedroom's an office. Well, does it have to be in the house? No,
Mm-hmm.
it could be in the garage. We've seen stuff like that. So thanks, Renee. That's true. It's really understanding why they want that extra bedroom or big yard or something like that. So digging into those questions, and the more the greater you dig into them and understand their needs and wants, I think you also build a deeper connection, like we've talked about before.
And on the seller's lead, because you are teaching seller's lead, Rob,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things in Bay Area, especially in our area, is what condition is their house in, because a lot of times they can. That makes the difference between what they can get and fetch for their house. So then I'm doing an analysis and telling them that, hey, the house is well done and very updated, it fetches high dollars, like top dollars, right? So that's a good one to ask as well.
Exactly.
I'm gonna put it a different way. A lot of times people will say, I want a fixer-upper. And you have to ask them what their definition of a fixer-upper is, because sometimes what they want to do is slap some paint on it and put some new floors, and that's a fixer-upper. And you show them a home that needs a little more work, and they're going, what the hell, what are you doing? So get their definition of a fixer-upper.
That is so true, Renee, because a lot of people do not realize when you go show them a house and it's like, no, I didn't ask for this. This is just a dump, I'm like, okay, this is a fixer-upper. So.
Yes, and because we're talking about sellers, it's the same thing with sellers too, right? My house is completely updated. Well, let's have a look at that. Let's see what that looks like for you. All right, moving along. So this is where, when qualifying them and it allows you to categorize them in the future, right? So A, B, and C. I like this. I might do this for my recruits. Able, ready, willing to do business in 0 to 14 days, right? So daily follow-up on those kind of people. A B, able, ready, willing to do business in 15 to 60 days. Put them in your database. It says call every 2 to 3 days at least. And email and text. But actually, when you qualify them, you should be able to understand what works best for them. And then C, able, ready, willing to do business in 61 days. Put them in your database. Call monthly. With this, and I think most of you agree, especially if you're seasoned like me, you don't just put them in your database. And I'm going to do it from a command point of view. You put them on a smart plan. And the smart plan is based on, when their need is, put them on a neighborhood landing page. So get that neighborhood search so that they're seeing what's going on. If they're motivated to sell sooner, do it every couple of weeks, every couple of days, whatever that looks like to get that, to continue with that motivation. And then, have a smart plan that reminds you when to call them and reach out to them. But I think that's where you leverage the database of command with that. That's always worked well for me. I have, I'm trying to think if he does it for sellers. I think he does it for sellers too. I have an agent that actually has the listings sent to him, and then he looks at them and then he forwards them on to a seller. In a market like this, it's not too hard because there's not a whole bunch of inventory, but that way, as the emails come to the seller, he can add a little personal note to it. So I think what he's trying to do is create a more personal touch than just sending him a bunch of listings to see what's going on in the neighborhood. Just an idea. It works for him, doesn't work for everybody. I haven't tried it yet myself, but we're always looking at ways to better ourselves and build rapport with our clients. Let's go back to that. What are some ways, because I've got a good group of people here, that you, if you categorized, or actually let's start with this. Of the people on the phone that have done listings in the past, do you do some sort of categorizing of your seller leads like this, or do you do it differently? I'm just curious.
I do a lot of this where I do put them into, the couple weeks. I would probably do 30 days and then, 60 days or 90 days and then further out. I wouldn't have it quite as tight as this is.
Yep.
The other thing is that what I remember people telling me is that if they tell you, call me, I'll be ready in 6 months, call me then, start calling them in the 4th month, as opposed to waiting to the 6th month, because things may change and you want to, again, get top of mind again. So make sure you're calling them. If they say 6, start calling them at 4 or 3. If they say a year, call them at 8 or 9. Just, get ahead of it instead of calling them and say, oh, by the way, the realtor just left with my listing. Another real, so.
Yeah, on that, Renee, actually, isn't it advisable to at least have some touch with them every month even? Because you don't know what things can change, right?
Absolutely. It's all about being top of mind. And, I don't know what presentation it was, but they had, I think it was Jay Papasan that said, where you want to be is, you've got these people who don't buy, and they're getting ready to buy, and say that they're up here getting ready to buy. You want to start talking to them when, here,
Right.
and that, so that you're top of mind, because someone could walk in while they're up here and get the listing because you didn't stay top of mind during this other time. Does that make sense?
That was
Yes.
one of the most amazing curves that I had seen, Renee, because it was like, when somebody buys a house, it's about roughly around 7 to 8 years before they are going to sell. So you are thinking, okay, there is a curve, and then they're going to the probability is going to continue to increase of them selling in 7 years. But a life situation can happen; it can change instantaneously. So so that curve can completely disappear, and that was very eye-opening. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, Renee. I was just thinking about when I transitioned from being a buyer or an agent to team leader. Right before, for about 7-8 months, I was working with a seller that was looking to sell their townhouse over on Mountain View Road, right off of Seabright. And there were things that came up that kept putting it off. And I would help her get vendors, and I was staying in touch with her. And then I know Renee knows what this is like. When I got my team leader role, it was like a fire hose. I was like, and so I didn't talk to her for 4 months. Guess what? She listed with somebody else, and they sold it in 2 weeks. And if I had, if I was still in my realtor role, or if I guess was smarter at the time, I would have had him on some sort of smart campaign to follow up him. So there was some sort of automated campaign that was even following up with him. But she just goes, well, I just saw you were so busy because I hadn't heard from you in 3 or 4 months. And so from Sereno just was, right around the corner and listened.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to say real quickly, yeah, I'm sorry. The other thing I'd like to recommend is if anyone has time, and I know we probably don't have that much time right now, is a book called Ninja Selling. I just finished it and it's phenomenal. So anyway, Ninja Selling.
Ninja Selling?
Ninja Selling. And it actually is from a group in Colorado, and CRS used to teach this as part of their designation. Anyway, great book.
So I'll give you a 30-second plug. What was it about Ninja Selling that you would recommend for someone that you took away from the book?
It talks about the systems. It talks about being top of mind. It talks about how to build relationship first.
Okay.
It talks about it just talks about all of that kind of stuff, and it's just really powerful.
Perfect. Thank you, Renee, for sharing that. That's what's great about these classes is sometimes it triggers a great book or a great something that we've heard in the past. I don't know. I will read that. Thank you, Renee. All right.
I put the Ninja Selling link on in the chat.
Oh, perfect. Okay. We will skip this role play because I think we've talked about enough of the connecting questions, and we get that, and it's in your packet also. So if that's okay, I'll move beyond that just because due to time. So we've done that portion. Now it's now Gary calls it. So we're asking for the appointment. Cool. Sorry. So ask for the appointment, ask for the referral, ask for them to reciprocate the connection you've made. That's a tough one. All right, pre-qualifying sellers. Oops, I went too fast. I'm sorry, guys.
Before you move, Rob, Sarah says that they, Rob,
yeah.
Before you move, Sarah, who's also on the training, says that she has this ninja. I guess this Ninja Selling videos. So anybody wants it, they can send her an email or give her your email address, and she can send you videos. She uses that.
Hey, AJ, since you have control, can you go ahead and give her my email address? My Rob_Ross@KW.
Okay, will do.
Thank you, buddy. And thanks for letting us know about that. So if any of you want to see the videos, if you're more visual more visual when it comes to seeing the videos like I am, perfect. This I think is a smaller section, just converting for the appointment. And I don't actually have the questions, but I believe in your, let's see, I think it's in the participant guide. Yeah, you guys have it. So that there's some closing questions in there. It's a good slide to look at to see what resonates with you. The two they have for me is when will you be ready to sell, which is a direct approach, and then will tomorrow at 3 or Friday at 1 work for you to discuss selling your home, the alternative approach. I think it just depends, and I know it goes through the other ones that are in there, and we talked about this on Monday in our shift class. It just depends on what resonates with you. Some people don't feel comfortable with a hard, direct close, and they feel more comfortable with kind of an alternative close where I'm closing you, but I'm giving you some options. So I'll leave that at that, unless somebody has any questions on closing, but I think we all kind of understand that concept. AJ, let me know if anybody hits us up with that.
Yeah, no, nothing yet.
I'm going to take 60 seconds to a great thing that I think when it comes to, because it talks about referrals. One of our agents asked us, do they carry their business cards around with them or not? In the shifting book, Gary talks about not carrying his business cards with him. The reason why I bring it up, because it talked about referrals, and we talked about it, and some of my agents don't carry business cards. One of the things that they'll do is they'll have a image of their business card on their phone. And what they'll do is they'll ask the referrer or whoever they're going to potentially get business from for their contact information. And then they text them their business card. So now they've captured their name and their cell phone number. And I was thinking about this, say for example, you're at, I guess, a softball game, everything in sports in my head like that. And the person next to you, you know them from school or whatever, and they're like, hey, I know this person that may be thinking of buying or selling in the near future. They'll pick one. And they're like, let me get a business card from you, and then I'll have them call you. Well, we all know, well, not all, us who have had that happen before know that that percentage of time that person's actually going to have that referral call us back is pretty low. It's just the way life is. They get busy. So instead, it would be, let me get your info if it's not someone you know really well, and I'll reach out to them. Or can you give me the name of them and I'll send my info. So just instead of you just giving your business card and just letting it fly, by having the ability to text them and get their information, that capturing allows you to have that communication. So anyways, I just thought I'd bring that up because I know this week that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put my business card on my phone and do that so I can capture people's information. So let's go on to the next one, pre-qualifying leads. All right. 9:47. Wow, this goes quick. So we briefly talked about this too, pre-qualifying the lead, understand the seller's motivation. We understand some of that from the connecting questions. Position yourself as the expert, win the listing, allow you to price the home to sell for the most amount of money in the shortest time frame. Properly set sellers' expectations, allowing them to create a great customer experience. I know in doing these, and it's in your, give me a second here. Let's see, where is it? I have it, I think. In the toolkit, just give me 1 second here. I think it's in this one. And I will share it for those of you that didn't download it. Yeah, okay. Pre-listing questionnaire. Okay. Okay, and all of you see this, is it too small or is it still, is it readable?
A little small.
Is it a little small? Okay, let me try this. Let's see if it gives me the option to blow it up. New window, new frame, zoom in. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that is better.
Is that better? Okay. So here's some qualifying questions. I know I have something similar to this, and I'm sure probably Renee has something similar to this. I'm assuming just so that we don't ever forget anything, we make sure that we truly pre-qualify the client, really understand their motivation beyond just the connecting. So I had a question for you, Renee, because you've been around like I have a while, is say you set the appointment, do you do a pre-qualification on the phone or do you do it at the appointment itself?
I guess my question would be, what do you mean by a pre-qualification? As far as I'm concerned, if they've called me and they want me to come over,
yeah,
they're qualified.
I hear you. And that's how I've always done it. I was on a team for a short period of time, and we actually, so once we set the seller appointment, one of our inside salespeople would actually call them back and pre-qualify them and really get to understand their motivation and what they're looking for to preempt the appointment. I think I'm like Renee, is I go for the close, I get them there, but as soon as I sit down with them after we've done some of the other things, I'm qualifying them. I want to make sure that I understand the motivation, what they're truly looking for. And as Jordan was talking, I dig deep. I want to know if these are people I want to spend time with right away, or if I'm going to classify them as a B or C, and it's someone that's I'm going to have to cultivate because they're just not ready to sell at this point. And I think especially I know this is not a short sale market, but really understanding the motivation of your seller in this market, if you guys get any listing leads, especially during this time, is really digging into these, because I think that's going to help you determine, am I going to try to get this on the market now, or am I going to wait? And a lot of it has to do with motivation, because there's some hoops they're going to have to jump through to get it listed in this market.
My experience has been too that they usually tell you up front. I have a client that, in fact, after this is over, I'm going to be calling, but she called a couple months ago and she goes, Renee, we're going to be selling. I'm retiring in June. We're going to be selling. Could you come over and tell me what I need to do to get the house ready? So love those calls, don't you? Anyway, so again, the client, most of the people, if you're working your sphere in that, most of the people will tell you ahead of time exactly what the appointment's going to be.
Agreed. I totally agree with you, Renee. But I think it totally, but then from time to time, you will have those ones where one of Renee's friends in her database, yet they're referring them to somebody else that they know. So there hasn't been that connection yet. So Renee doesn't know them yet. Then she may have to, and they're still building that connection. Then she'll have to dig deeper, probably during the pre-qual process, as to, understand more about them and their motivation. You know what I'm saying? Because it's maybe someone that doesn't know you that well and haven't given you all that data. I'm gonna speed through this.
Well, and I know, like with the agent that I work with, we tend to drop off buyer or listing packets prior to the appointment time so that they can sit down at their own leisure, fill out the questionnaire, and then when we come back to the table, then we can see what they've already written and then dig deeper from there. So that's not so that way they have plenty of time to think thoroughly through what they're saying. Things may come up in 24 hours that they didn't write down, but they're like, oh yeah, and I remember, but let's add this too.
Right. And I've seen that too, where they'll send the pre-listing package ahead of time for them to go through it all, with a questionnaire, but also the package contains some of the marketing material. So it kind of, preempts the seller as to what they're going to get from you. And so that way, when you meet with them, the conversation's a little bit different. So I've seen both. Thank you, letter N. Sorry.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have a different way or strategy they use for pre-qualifying sellers? Nope.
Let me just add, I will say that you should probably do this because I think sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you, I get a little cocky and I don't get the information I need for future. So I think that is a good habit, a business habit, is taking the time or making sure you take the time to go through some of this information. Even if you're talking about information, personal information about the people, their birthday, anyway, any of the kind of the information you can get. Again, I think sometimes I overlook this step and I'll be running around looking for information. So anyway.
Thank you, Renee. I so appreciate that. I started with my parents, so I didn't even do this from the very beginning. And if I had had classes like this when I first started real estate, it would have been a totally different conversation, because I was doing what Renee just said, is I would just get the basics and then get the listing, but then I would have to go back and reinitiate all of these questions, where if I had them all from the very beginning, all answered, it would just make things run so much smoother. And it also, if it's not someone that's in your database, it builds connection, right? It builds connection and it builds value because you're digging deep in them and you're really understanding their motivation. So yeah, thanks, Renee, for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we only have a short period of time. Actually, we have 6 minutes. I was going to show how to get to the listing presentation that we have, because I'm not sure if everybody has seen the listing presentation that KW has or where to get it. So go here. Right, show this. Okay, and I'll get rid of this. So the listing presentation that we have through KW Command, so you'll log into your dashboard, go into designs, and then when you're in designs, you'll click the plus sign. And then when you click the plus sign, you'll do a print, next. Okay, I don't have the fastest connection, so it's coming. It's me. Come on, internet. Okay. Listings, listing presentation. So there's two different kinds of listing presentation. There's a classic and there's a modern. Click the one you want to use. And I'll walk through this a little slow because I didn't get this initially. So here's the templated presentation, okay, that you can modify any of these papers. So what you do is you go through and you pick the ones that you want. And then, so say I want these 2 pages. So I just clicked on these 2 to add them. And then you're like, okay, which pages did I pick? If you go to the bottom left side middle, you'll see a thing where it says pages. And you click on that. It's going to show you the pages that you picked for your template. So you need to go through and pick all the ones. And then let's do. I'll do a quick example here. So I'll push this down. That's not me. So it's so point and click. So I just clicked on her picture. It went to my library. Oops. And if you click on it, it'll put it in the wrong spot, which was the first thing I did. Oh. Ah. Sorry, guys. Coffee's kicking in. But I can just replace the image. Boom. Done. And then you just go through and you can just edit all this text. And then when you're done, you'll want to name your design. And then you just click done. And you save it. And now you have, obviously I didn't spend a whole bunch of time clicking on it. So now you have a listing presentation. Now, in the future, when you want to get to it, you click your design so you get there. And then if you go to the top right and just type listing, it's going to pop up my listing presentation. And if you have a faster internet, it comes up really fast. And then here's my presentation down here. And then I can just print it off. So when I started at KW, Michael Lewis has their own presentation, and that's what I used. I didn't come up with a big fancy one. I first tried to, and then my team leader, Elaine, said, "Why are you doing that? You're spending all this time doing it. We have a template." She was right. And the template worked. And I heard this on another.
Hearing that.
Oh, don't tell her, Jordan.
I don't have to. She relishes in it.
No, you just totally threw me off. So yeah, so it's. I heard this in when I was watching the video of how this was done, and I know our time's running out, and I'll be really quick. If I'm a newer agent, I leverage the power of KW and the strength of KW, and I leverage the strength of my office. And then as you build up your own results, then I started to mix them in. So you know, you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm a new agent, I don't have anything. No, you are a new agent. You belong to the #1 real estate, you're part of the #1 real estate company in the United States, I think almost in the world. And you have all these other great attributes of the office that you're joining. You just need to leverage that, you know? And then after you have those things, it's about connection. It really is. I was a solo agent for 6 years, and I would go up against some of the top offices. And because I built good connection, I would beat them, you know, not all the time, but 80% of the time, just because of the connection. And I'm a pop shop. So just believe in yourself and the connection. So I know our time is short, so I'm just going to go back to just kind of a normal screen. Are there any like last minute questions that people have about today? Anything that they see that they can take with them moving on in the future? Like an aha that just resonates with them today.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
One, this rocked, thank you. And two, going back to the listing presentation.
Yep.
You select whatever pages that you want to formulate your packet.
Yes.
When you add new ones, like outside, like let's say we want to do our own questionnaire.
Right.
Does it format it to like a similar like theme? Because it seemed like there was a theme throughout the packet, right? So you don't want it to be all like modern and cool and then have like this random thing.
Totally understand what you're saying. I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to that question.
I know in Michael Lewis, they had templates at the end of the presentation. So that's what it would be, as if there's blank templates sort of thing.
There isn't any, so Nairi, I'm just looking at it. I don't see any blank templates, but I think that here, let me just show you something real quick. Give me a second. And
there's also the old ones from, there's also the ones from the Ignite, the old Ignite course.
Yes, they're in there too. But what I was going to say is that Nairi, these are pretty editable, that you could probably get what you're looking for. So like, see this page here, this one I'm on?
Yeah.
It looks very similar to the format of everything else that's in here. So I would just go through, just clean it off, you know, just clean off the text and then just add all the own stuff.
Just manipulate a page you're not going to use instead.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's like, so for example, if I'm doing a PowerPoint and it's got like a certain pattern, but the pattern is a background, so I can erase what's off it, but still keep the background. That's what I do. And then I just cut and paste and put my information of what I want on it. So it creates it so it's the same feel of all the rest of the slides.
Sure. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's probably what I would do for something like this. And it's so editable that it's pretty easy. And then just so you know, Nairi, I believe it's next Thursday, Amanda's doing a class on designs.
Yeah.
And go ahead and bring that question up on that too.
Okay, cool.
I did that with the buyer guide. I just added in the page that I liked, like if there were a couple pages that I liked, I just added multiples of those and then just edited out what I needed and put in what I needed. So it's super easy to do it.
Super easy? Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go, Nairi.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Allison.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else, any last minute questions or that people have? Cool.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Rob.
Great job, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, you guys. If you need
Thank you,
let me know.
teacher.
Hey, don't forget everybody be on the Aaron Kaufman training at 1 o'clock today.
Yes,
as
please
well.
do. Please do. Thanks, Laura.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Get out of my pajamas by then.